Commander Dae-ho Kim stood at the window of his office on New Busan Colony. The orange sun was setting over the hills where human families had built their homes. Children played in the streets below. Their laughter drifted up to his window. It was a peaceful sound that made him smile. Dae-ho had been the defense coordinator for New Busan for 5 years now. Before that, he had served in Earth's military for 20 years. He knew what war looked like. He had seen planets burn and families torn apart. That was why this peaceful colony meant so much to him. His communication device beeped. Dr. So-young Park's face appeared on the screen. She looked worried. So-young was the colony's chief scientist and their main contact with alien species. If she was worried, there was good reason. "Dae-ho, we need to talk," she said. "The Vorthak Empire just made an announcement to the Galactic Confederation Council. It's about humans." Dae-ho felt his stomach drop. The Vorthak were known throughout the galaxy as ruthless warriors. They had conquered dozens of worlds. No one had ever beaten them in battle. "What kind of announcement?" "They declared us a threat. They say humans are expanding too fast and using too many resources. They want to stop us before we become dangerous." So-young's voice was tight with fear. "Dae-ho, they're talking about war." Within an hour, Dae-ho was in the colony's council chamber. So-young sat across from him with data pads spread across the table. Captain Jin-Woo Lee, who commanded one of the colony's cargo ships, sat beside her. At the far end of the table, Ambassador Hyun-Soo Cho joined them through a video link from the Confederation capital. "Tell me everything," Dae-ho said. Ambassador Hyun-Soo spoke first. Supreme Commander Veltar of the Vorthak Empire stood before the entire Confederation Council today. He said humanity has become too aggressive in our expansion. He claims we're taking resources that belong to other species. "That's not true," Captain Jinwoo said angrily. "We've followed every rule. We've only settled on empty worlds or bought territory fairly. The truth doesn't matter to them," Hyun-Soo replied. "Veltar said humans are primitive but dangerous. He compared us to a virus that spreads too quickly. He wants to cut us down before we grow stronger." So-young pulled up a holographic map of human space. 47 colonies glowed blue against the black of space. Each dot represented thousands of human lives. "How many ships do they have?" "Intelligence reports say 10,000 combat vessels," Hyun-Soo answered. "They're already moving toward our borders." Veltar promised the council that all human colonies would be pacified within 1 month. The room fell silent. 10,000 ships was more than the entire human fleet. Even if every human vessel fought perfectly, they would be outnumbered 5 to 1. "What about the other Confederation species?" Dae-ho asked. "Will they help us?" Hyun-Soo shook his head. "They're afraid of the Vorthak too. Most think it's better to let them have what they want rather than risk their own worlds." The council voted to remain neutral. Captain Jin-Woo slammed his fist on the table. "Cowards! After everything we've contributed to the Confederation, they abandon us." "I tried to warn them," Hyun-Soo continued. "I told Veltar that humans don't fight wars the same way other species do. He laughed at me. He said they've studied our military history and found us primitive and emotional. He thinks our methods are outdated." Dae-ho had been quiet during this exchange. Now he stood and walked to the window again. The sun had set completely. Stars filled the sky. Somewhere among those stars, the Vorthak fleet was coming to destroy everything he had sworn to protect. "What did you tell him exactly?" Dae-ho asked without turning around. "I said that attacking humans was a mistake, that we're not as weak as we appear, that we've learned from every war we've ever fought." Hyun-Soo paused. He said that was impossible. According to their analysis, humans fight with outdated tactics and too much emotion. They think our technology is basic compared to theirs. So-young looked at her data pad. "They're not wrong about our ships. The Vorthak have plasma cannons that can cut through our best armor. Their shields can stop our weapons. On paper, we can't win." "On paper," Dae-ho repeated. He turned back to face the others. There was something different in his expression now. The worry was gone. In its place was something harder, something that reminded them he had been a soldier before he was a colony administrator. "Captain Jinwoo," Dae-ho said, "send a message to your cargo ship. Tell your crew to prepare for emergency protocols." "What kind of emergency protocols?" Jinwoo asked. "The kind we've been planning for since we built this colony." Dae-ho moved to his desk and opened a secure drawer. Inside was a single red device that none of them had ever seen him use. "So-young, contact every family on New Busan. Tell them to gather their children and prepare for relocation to the mountain facilities. Mountain facilities? So Young looked confused. What mountain facilities? The ones we built in secret over the past 5 years. Daeho pressed a button on the red device. Across New Busan, hidden doors began to open in hillsides and beneath buildings. The ones every human colony has been building since we joined the Confederation. Captain Jinwoo stared at him. You mean we've been preparing for war this whole time? Not war, Daeho corrected. Survival. The galaxy is a dangerous place. We learned that lesson before we ever left Earth. Hope for peace, but prepare for war. Ambassador Hyun-soo was watching this from his screen with growing amazement. Daeho, what aren't you telling us? I'm telling you that the Vorthak made 2 mistakes. First, they assumed we've been sitting idle during our 80 years in the Confederation. Second, they think they understand how humans fight. The red device in Daeho's hand began to flash. Messages were coming in from every human colony. Each one reported the same thing. Hidden facilities were coming online, civilians were moving to safe positions, and ships that had appeared to be simple cargo vessels were revealing their true nature. The Vorthak studied our old wars. Daeho continued. They looked at how we fought each other on Earth hundreds of years ago. They think they know our capabilities, but they never asked what we learned from studying them. So Young was beginning to understand. You mean we've been watching them too? Every human merchant who traded with them. Every human diplomat who visited their worlds. Every human scientist who studied their technology. We've been learning about every species in the Confederation since the day we joined. Captain Jinwoo smiled for the first time since the meeting began. And they never suspected. Why would they? We appeared weak and peaceful. We followed their rules and stayed quiet. We made them think we were just grateful to be accepted into galactic society. Outside, the first transports were already moving families toward the mountains. But these weren't panicked evacuations. The people moved with purpose as if they had practiced this many times. Because they had. Ambassador Hyun-soo, Daeho said to the screen, send a message to Admiral Miran Song on Earth. Tell her the Vorthak have made their choice. It's time to show them what fortune really costs. What should I tell the Confederation Council? Hyun-soo asked. Daeho looked out at his colony one more time. The streets were emptying, but there was no chaos. Humans were simply disappearing into the night, leaving behind what looked like abandoned settlements. Soon the Vorthak would arrive to find empty worlds. They would think their reputation alone had scared the humans away. They would be wrong. Tell the Council that they're about to learn why thinking of war with humans requires more than just good fortune, Daeho said. Tell them it requires wisdom. And the Vorthak just proved they don't have any. Admiral Miran Song stood in the command center of Earth's main military base. Around her, hundreds of screens showed the movement of ships across human space. For the past 3 days since the Vorthak declaration, those screens had been busier than ever before. Status report, she called out. Colonel Taemin Yoon stepped forward. He was in charge of Earth's Special Operations Forces. All colonies have confirmed Phase 1 completion. Civilian populations are secured in underground facilities. Surface installations appear abandoned. Good. What about our merchant fleet? Engineer Haewon-young looked up from her workstation. She had been working without sleep since the crisis began. Captain Jinwoo Lee's ship was the first to transform. All other vessels are following the same protocol. The Vorthak will get quite a surprise when they scan our cargo ships. Miran nodded. She had spent 20 years preparing for this day. 20 years since she had been a young captain, and first realized that joining the Galactic Confederation meant making enemies as well as friends. The universe was not a safe place for any species, especially not for newcomers like humans. Show me the transformation status, she ordered. The main screen changed to show a list of human vessels throughout the galaxy. Next to each ship's name was a status indicator. Green meant the ship had successfully shed its civilian disguise. Yellow meant transformation was in progress. Red meant there were problems. Most of the indicators were green. Captain Jinwoo Lee's voice came through the communication system from his ship, the Taguk. Admiral, transformation complete. All weapon systems are online. Our cargo bays have been converted to fighter launch platforms. The Vorthak scanning data they collected over the years is now completely useless. Excellent work, Captain. What's your current position? Following the Vorthak advance fleet at a distance of 2 light-years. They have no idea we're here. Our stealth systems are working perfectly, Miran smiled. The stealth systems had been Hai Wan Young's masterpiece. While other species had focused on building bigger guns and stronger shields, humans had worked on becoming invisible. Every major human ship could disappear from sensors when needed. Any sign they suspect something? Miran asked. No, Admiral. They're moving in standard formation, just like their training manuals describe. They're not even trying to hide their approach. They think this will be easy. Colonel Taman spoke up. Admiral, I have reports from our advanced teams. They're in position on 17 different Vorthak-controlled worlds. The enemy has no idea we've been infiltrating their territory for months. This was another secret humans had kept from the galaxy. While everyone believed humans were peaceful traders and diplomats, some of those merchants and ambassadors had been soldiers in disguise. They had been mapping Vorthak bases, studying their defenses, and preparing for exactly this situation. What about their supply lines? Miran asked. Completely mapped, Taman replied. We know where every fuel depot and repair station is located. When you give the word, we can cut off their entire fleet from support. Engineer Haywan stood and stretched. She had been hunched over her computers for hours, but now she was smiling. Admiral, I have something that will interest you. Remember how the Vorthak have been bragging about their new plasma weapons? The ones that supposedly can cut through any armor? Those are the ones. Well, it turns out they have a weakness. The plasma needs to maintain a specific temperature and density to be effective. If you can disrupt either one, the weapon becomes almost useless. Miran raised an eyebrow. And we can disrupt them? Better than that. We can turn their own weapons against them. I've developed a device that can reverse the plasma flow in their cannons. When they try to fire, their own weapons will destroy their ships. How did you figure this out? Remember the Vorthak trade delegation that visited Earth last year? They were so proud of their technology that they brought working examples to show off. They wanted to intimidate us with their superior firepower. Haywan's smile became predatory. Instead, they gave us everything we needed to defeat them. This was the problem with being too confident, Miran thought. The Vorthak had been winning battles for so long that they had forgotten to be careful. They had shown humans their best weapons, expecting fear. Instead, they had given humans the keys to their own defeat. Admiral, came another voice from across the room. I have Supreme Commander Veltar on an open channel. He's broadcasting to all human colonies. Put him on screen. The image of a large reptilian creature appeared. Veltar wore the elaborate armor of a Vorthak commander. His scales were dark green, and his eyes glowed red with anger. When he spoke, his voice was deep and threatening. Humans of the outer colonies, Veltar began. This is Supreme Commander Veltar of the Vorthak Empire. Your species has been judged a threat to galactic peace. Your expansion ends now. Miran listened without expression as the alien commander continued his speech. We have 10,000 ships approaching your worlds. Our weapons are superior to yours. Our soldiers are trained for victory. You have two choices. Surrender now and accept relocation to designated reservation worlds or face complete destruction. Veltar paused as if expecting a response. When none came, he continued. Do not think your Confederation allies will help you. They have chosen wisdom over foolishness. They know the Vorthak Empire cannot be defeated. We have never lost a war in 400 years. The transmission ended. Colonel Taman shook his head. He really believes this will be easy for them. Why shouldn't he? Miran replied. Every piece of intelligence they have tells them we're weak. Our ships look like cargo vessels. Our colonies appear to be simple farming communities. Our military looks small and outdated. But that's exactly what we wanted them to think, Engineer Haywan added. Exactly. The question is, are we ready to show them the truth? Miran looked around the command center. Every person there had been working toward this moment for years. They had prepared weapons the Vorthak had never seen. They had developed tactics no alien military had ever encountered. They had turned their entire civilization into a hidden war machine. Colonel Taman, signal all special operations teams. Begin Phase 2? Yes, Admiral. What about the fleet? Captain Jinwoo, are you still monitoring this channel? Yes, Admiral. Begin shadowing operations. I want our ships following every Vorthak vessel. When they reach human space, they should find themselves surrounded without even knowing it. Understood. What about the colonies? Miran turned to look at the tactical display. It showed the Vorthak fleet moving steadily toward human territory. In 3 days, they would reach the first colonies. They expected to find frightened civilians begging for mercy. Instead, they would find empty worlds and deadly surprises. The colonies are ready, Miran said. Commander Daeho Kim and the other defense coordinators have been preparing for this day since we first built those settlements. The Vorthak think they're attacking defenseless farming communities. She paused and smiled coldly. They're about to learn that there's no such thing as a defenseless human colony. Engineer Haywan pulled up another display. It showed energy readings from across human space. To most observers, these would look like normal power usage from mining equipment and agricultural systems. Admiral, all defensive systems are online. The Vorthak won't be able to detect them until it's too late. Our farming equipment is about to reveal its true purpose. And their intelligence data? Completely useless. Every scan they've ever made of our colonies showed exactly what we wanted them to see. They think they know our capabilities, but they've never seen our real defenses. Colonel Tamian received a message on his personal communicator. He read it quickly and looked up with satisfaction. Admiral, we just received confirmation from our teams on Vorthak worlds. All supply depots have been tagged with tracking devices. When you give the order, we can destroy their entire logistics network in a single coordinated strike. What about their command structure? We've been monitoring their communications for months. We know how their chain of command works, and we know how to disrupt it. Miran nodded. This was what happened when humans had time to prepare. They didn't just plan to win battles. They planned to win wars. And winning wars meant thinking about every aspect of combat. Logistics, communications, psychology, and long-term strategy. Begin Operation Fortune's End, she commanded. Send the activation codes to all human forces. It's time to show the galaxy what humans are really capable of. Around the command center, officers began implementing orders they had been preparing for years. Hidden weapons came online. Disguised ships revealed their true nature. Secret bases opened their doors. The Vorthak Empire was about to discover that thinking of war with humans required more than just superior numbers and advanced weapons. It required understanding your enemy, and they had completely misunderstood humanity. Lieutenant Yujin Kang crouched in the darkness beneath New Busan Colony. Around her, 50 other soldiers waited in the underground tunnels that had been built over 5 years. Above them, the Vorthak landing force was setting up their equipment in what they thought was an abandoned settlement. Status report, Yujin whispered into her communication device. Landing force consists of approximately 3,000 troops, came the reply from her observation team. They've established a base in the colony's main square. No signs of caution or defensive preparations. They think the area is completely empty. Yujin smiled grimly. The Vorthak soldiers were good fighters, but they had one major weakness: they always fought the same way. Their military doctrine was based on overwhelming force and direct confrontation. They had never learned to fight an enemy they couldn't see. Remember the plan, she told her team. Small groups only. Hit them and disappear. Make them afraid of shadows. The tunnels beneath New Busan connected to every major building in the colony. They also connected to hidden bunkers in the surrounding hills where the civilian population was safely hidden. The Vorthak had scanned the colony from orbit and found no life signs. They had no idea that thousands of humans were living just a few meters beneath their feet. Dr. Sangho Bei was in the main command bunker, 3 kilometers away from the colony. He was monitoring Vorthak communications and preparing for the next phase of their strategy. Sangho was an expert in psychological warfare. He understood how different alien minds worked and how to exploit their weaknesses. Lieutenant Kang, his voice came through Yujin's earpiece. The Vorthak commander just sent a message to his fleet. He's reporting complete success. No resistance encountered. Perfect, Yujin replied. Let them think they've won. Are you ready with the deception protocols? All prepared. When you begin your attacks, I'll start feeding false information into their communication systems. They won't know what's real and what isn't. Meanwhile, Captain Na-Young Lim was aboard her ship, the Arirang, positioned 200 kilometers above New Busan. Her vessel was completely invisible to Vorthak sensors, thanks to the advanced stealth systems engineer Haiwan Jung had developed. The Arirang looked like empty space on every scanner. Captain Lim, came a transmission from Admiral Miran Song. What's your status? We're in position above the landing site. The Vorthak fleet is maintaining standard orbit. They have no idea we're here. Excellent. When Lieutenant Kang begins her operations, I want you to monitor Vorthak fleet communications. Let me know how they react to the ground assault. Yujin checked her chronometer. It was time. She activated her team's communication network and whispered, All teams begin operations. Remember, ghosts don't leave witnesses. The first attack came from Team Alpha, positioned near the Vorthak fuel depot. 3 soldiers emerged from a hidden tunnel, placed explosive charges on the fuel containers, and disappeared back underground before anyone saw them. The explosion lit up the night sky. Before the Vorthak could respond to the first attack, Team Beta struck their communication array. The soldiers cut the main cables and planted devices that would scramble any transmissions. Then they vanished into the tunnel system. Team Gamma targeted the vehicle park. They disabled 20 transport vehicles with magnetic charges that would cause the engines to fail when started. The Vorthak wouldn't discover this until they tried to move their equipment. Within 30 minutes, the Vorthak base was in chaos. Explosions came from every direction, but the soldiers could never find their attackers. Every time they organized a search party, another explosion would occur somewhere else. "This is impossible," shouted the Vorthak commander, a large warrior named Zektor. "Scanners show no life forms anywhere in this area." Dr. Sang-Ho Bei smiled as he listened to the intercepted transmission. Now it was time for Phase 2 of the psychological warfare. He activated his false communication systems and began broadcasting fake orders to Vorthak units. "Attention Unit 7, came a voice that sounded exactly like Zektor. "Enemy forces detected in Sector 12. Redirect all search teams immediately." While half the Vorthak soldiers rushed to Sector 12, Team Delta attacked their ammunition storage in Sector 3. The explosion was so large that it could be seen from orbit. "Commander Zektor to all units," came another false transmission in the commander's voice. "We are facing human special forces. Estimated enemy strength is at least 10,000 soldiers. Request immediate reinforcements." The real Zektor heard this transmission and realized his communications were compromised. But he couldn't tell which messages were real and which were fake. Every order he gave might be a trap. Captain Na-Young Lim watched from orbit as the Vorthak fleet began to panic. "Admiral Song, the fleet is breaking formation. 3 ships are moving toward the planet to provide support. They're leaving their defensive positions." "Perfect," Admiral Song replied. "That's exactly what we wanted them to do." On the ground, Yujin's teams continued their attacks. But now they had a new target, the Vorthak soldiers' minds. Every attack was designed to create maximum fear and confusion. Team Echo used sound projectors to make it seem like human voices were coming from empty buildings. The voices spoke in Vorthak language, saying things like, "We are watching you, and you cannot hide from us." Team Foxtrot used holographic projectors to create false images of human soldiers in areas where no humans could possibly be. The Vorthak would fire at these illusions, wasting ammunition and revealing their positions. Dr. Sang-Ho Bei monitored the psychological effects of these tactics. "Lieutenant Kang, the deception is working better than expected. Vorthak stress levels are off the charts. They're starting to see enemies everywhere." "What about their command structure?" "Completely broken down. Their officers are giving contradictory orders. Some units are refusing to follow commands because they think the orders are fake. Others are following fake orders that lead them into ambushes." This was the beauty of psychological warfare, Sang-Ho thought. Once you made the enemy doubt their own senses, they became their own worst enemy. The Vorthak were defeating themselves. Above the planet, more Vorthak ships were leaving their formation to investigate distress calls from the ground. Each ship that moved toward the planet was moving away from the protection of the main fleet. "Captain Lim," came Admiral Song's voice. "Are you ready to reveal ourselves?" Na-Young looked at her ship's weapon systems. The Arirang carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon, but it looked like a harmless cargo vessel on the outside. "All weapons charged and ready, Admiral." "Then show them what happens when you divide your forces against humans." The Arirang suddenly appeared on every Vorthak sensor as its stealth systems deactivated. But instead of appearing as a single ship, the human vessels seemed to multiply. Advanced holographic technology made it look like an entire fleet had materialized from nowhere. The Vorthak ships in orbit panicked. They found themselves apparently surrounded by human warships that had appeared without warning. Their sensors couldn't tell which ships were real and which were illusions. "All Vorthak vessels," Na-Young broadcast on an open channel. "This is Captain Na-Young Lim of the Human Defense Force. You are surrounded and outgunned. Surrender immediately or face destruction." On the ground, Lieutenant Yujin heard the broadcast and smiled. The plan was working perfectly. The Vorthak ground forces were trapped and confused while their fleet support was scattered and frightened. "Dr. Bei, she said into her communicator. Time for the final phase. Sang-Ho activated the last part of his psychological warfare program. False surrender broadcasts began coming from Vorthak units throughout the colony. These messages claimed that human forces had captured key positions and were demanding surrender. The real Vorthak commander, Zektor, heard these messages and realized his situation was hopeless. His communications were compromised, his supplies were destroyed, and his soldiers were terrified of an enemy they couldn't see or fight. But the worst part was the realization that everything he had been told about humans was wrong. They didn't fight with overwhelming force like the Vorthak. They didn't face their enemies in open battle. Instead, they used tactics that no Vorthak military academy had ever taught. This is Commander Zektor to all Vorthak forces, he finally broadcast. We are facing an enemy that does not fight according to any known doctrine. They appear to be everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Dr. Sang-Ho Bei recorded that transmission and sent it to Admiral Song. It would be useful for the next phase of the war. Lieutenant Kang, he said, mission accomplished. The Vorthak ground forces are effectively neutralized. They're too confused and demoralized to be a threat. Yu Jin looked around at her soldiers. They had suffered no casualties while completely defeating a force 10 times their size. All teams returned to base positions. Prepare for the next wave. Above them, Captain Na Young Lim was already engaging the scattered Vorthak fleet. The enemy ships were trying to regroup, but they had no idea which targets were real and which were illusions. The first battle was over, and the humans had won without the Vorthak ever understanding what had happened to them. But this was just the beginning. The real Vorthak fleet was still coming, and Supreme Commander Veltar was about to learn that conquering humans required. General Kyungmin Han stood in the underground command center beneath Seoul Colony, watching as reports came in from across human space. For the past week, Vorthak forces had been landing on human worlds expecting easy victories. Instead, they found nightmares. Sir, called Commander Boram Shin from her intelligence station, we have confirmation from 18 colonies. All Vorthak landing forces have been neutralized or scattered. Casualties? Kyungmin asked. Minimal on our side. The Vorthak have lost approximately 40% of their ground forces without achieving a single objective. Kyungmin nodded with satisfaction. The plan was working exactly as Admiral Mi Ran Song had designed it. But now came the difficult part, transitioning from defensive operations to full offensive war. Commander Shin, what's the status of Supreme Commander Veltar's main fleet? Boram pulled up a holographic display showing the position of Vorthak ships throughout the galaxy. He's still approaching with the bulk of his forces. 8,000 ships in tight formation. But sir, our intelligence teams have discovered something important. She highlighted a section of the display. The Vorthak military operates on a strict hierarchy. Every decision must be approved by higher command levels. If we can disrupt their command structure, their entire fleet becomes paralyzed. This was exactly what humans had been preparing for. While the Vorthak had been studying old human military tactics, humans had been studying Vorthak psychology and social organization. They knew that rigid hierarchy was both the Vorthak's greatest strength and their fatal weakness. Show me their command structure, Kyungmin ordered. The display changed to show a pyramid of Vorthak commanders. At the top was Supreme Commander Veltar. Below him were 5 fleet commanders. Below them were dozens of ship commanders. Every order had to flow down through this chain of command. If we eliminate the fleet commanders, the ship commanders can't make strategic decisions on their own, Boram explained. They'll wait for new orders that will never come. Sergeant Woo Jin Park entered the command center at that moment. He had just returned from leading ground operations on 3 different colonies. His uniform was dirty and torn, but he was smiling. General Han, he reported, the Vorthak are completely demoralized. Their soldiers keep asking how we can be in so many places at once. They think every human colony has at least 10,000 defenders. How many do we actually have? Kyungmin asked. About 50 per colony, sir. But we've been using movement tactics that make it seem like much more. The Vorthak can't adapt to our mobility. This was another advantage humans had discovered. The Vorthak were used to fighting enemies who stayed in fixed positions. Human soldiers moved constantly, appearing to attack from one direction, then vanishing and attacking from another. To the rigid Vorthak military mind, this seemed impossible. Sergeant Park, Kyungmin said, I'm promoting you to Lieutenant Colonel. I have a special mission for you, sir. I want you to take your best teams and infiltrate Veltar's command ship. Our intelligence shows that the Supreme Commander makes all strategic decisions personally. If we can capture or eliminate him, their entire invasion collapses. Wu Jin smiled. This was the kind of mission he lived for. How do we get aboard his ship, sir? Commander Boram answered that question. We've been monitoring Vorthak communications for months. We know their security codes, their patrol schedules, and even their meal times. Getting aboard won't be the problem. What will be? Getting out alive after we complete the mission. General Kyung-min activated the main communication system. Within seconds, he was connected to Admiral Miran Song on Earth and defense coordinators on every human colony. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, Operation Fortune's End enters its final phase in 6 hours. All defensive operations have exceeded expectations. The Vorthak ground forces are neutralized. Now we begin the offensive. Admiral Song's image appeared on the main screen. General Han, what's the status of our fleet? Captain Na Young Lim reports that our stealth ships are in position around the main Vorthak fleet. They still have no idea we're there. Excellent. What about their supply lines? Commander Boram took over the briefing. Our special forces teams have been in position on Vorthak worlds for 3 months. When you give the order, we can destroy every fuel depot, ammunition storage facility, and repair station in their empire simultaneously. This had been the most secret part of human preparations. While everyone believed human merchants and diplomats were simply conducting peaceful business, some of them had been soldiers mapping enemy territory and placing explosive devices in strategic locations. Admiral, Kyung-min continued, there's something else you need to know. We've discovered why the Vorthak were so confident about defeating us. He activated a recording of a conversation between Vorthak commanders. Humans fight with primitive projectile weapons, said one voice. Their ships are slow and poorly armed. Their tactics are based on emotional responses rather than logical planning. Their military history shows a pattern of wasteful frontal assaults, added another voice. They sacrifice large numbers of soldiers for small territorial gains. They are fierce but stupid. The recording ended and Admiral Song shook her head. They studied our wars from centuries ago. Exactly. They looked at how we fought each other on Earth before we developed space travel. They never considered that we might have learned and improved. Commander Boram brought up another display. Admiral, this is what they don't know about us. The screen showed statistics that would have shocked any alien military analyst. Human weapons technology had advanced far beyond what anyone suspected. Their ships could outrun and outgun anything the Vorthak possessed. Their soldiers were trained in combat techniques that no other species had ever developed. But most importantly, Boram continued, they don't understand human adaptability. Every war we've ever fought has taught us something new. We've learned from our mistakes and from studying other species' mistakes. Sergeant Wu Jin, now Lieutenant Colonel, was studying the mission plans for infiltrating Veltar's command ship. General, I have an idea for a psychological operation that might end this war without a major battle. Explain. The Vorthak respects strength above everything else. If we can make Veltar look weak in front of his own commanders, they might turn against him. I want to capture him alive and broadcast his surrender to the entire Vorthak fleet. General Kyung-min considered this. It was a dangerous plan, but it could save thousands of lives on both sides. What do you need? 20 soldiers and access to our best stealth ship. Also, I want Dr. Sang-Ho Bei to prepare a psychological profile of Veltar. I need to know exactly what will break his spirit. Dr. Bei's voice came through the communication system from his position at New Busan. I've been studying Vorthak psychology for months. Veltar's weakness is his pride. He cannot tolerate being humiliated, especially in front of his subordinates. Perfect, Wu Jin said. Then we'll give him a humiliation he'll never forget. Admiral Song reviewed the final plans. General Han, are all units ready for coordinated action? Yes, Admiral. Ground forces have secured all colonies. Our infiltration teams are in position on Vorthak worlds. Our stealth fleet is surrounding their main force. Then begin the final phase. Signal all units. Operation Fortune's End is now active. Across human space, hidden weapon systems came online. Ships that had appeared to be helpless cargo vessels revealed their true nature as advanced warships. Underground bunkers opened to release fighter squadrons that had been waiting for this moment. On Vorthak worlds throughout the galaxy, human special forces teams received their activation codes. Fuel depots, ammunition stores, and command centers began exploding in carefully timed sequences. Supreme Commander Veltar was in his command chamber when the first reports reached him. "Sir," called one of his communications officers, "we're receiving distress calls from 17 different worlds. Our supply bases are under attack." "By whom?" Veltar demanded. "Unknown forces, sir. The attacks appear to be coordinated across our entire territory." At the same time, Veltar's fleet found itself surrounded by human ships that had appeared from nowhere. These weren't the primitive vessels his intelligence had described. These were advanced warships with weapons and defenses that matched or exceeded anything the Vorthak possessed. "How is this possible?" Veltar roared. "Our intelligence said humans had only a few hundred ships." His fleet commander, a veteran of dozens of campaigns, looked at the tactical display with growing horror. "Sir, we count at least 3,000 human vessels. They're using stealth technology we've never seen before." But the worst shock was yet to come. Lieutenant Colonel Wu Jin Park and his team had successfully infiltrated the command ship. They moved through the corridors like shadows, using their knowledge of Vorthak security systems to avoid detection. "Target acquired," Wu Jin reported to General Han. "Supreme Commander Veltar is in his private chamber. Beginning capture operation." The door to Veltar's chamber opened silently. The Supreme Commander looked up from his tactical displays to see 20 human soldiers pointing weapons at him. He reached for his sidearm, but Wu Jin was faster. "Don't move," Wu Jin said in perfect Vorthak language. "Supreme Commander Veltar, you are now our prisoner." Veltar stared at the humans in disbelief. Fleet Admiral Yunji Quan stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Sejong, watching as the remaining Vorthak fleet tried to organize a final desperate attack. 3 days had passed since Supreme Commander Veltar's capture, and the alien fleet was falling apart. "Admiral," called her tactical officer, "Vorthak Fleet Commander Rathel is attempting to rally his ships for a last stand near the gas giant in Sector 7. How many ships does he have left?" 847 vessels, ma'am. Down from 10,000 at the start of the campaign." Yunji nodded grimly. The Vorthak had fought bravely, but they had never adapted to human tactics. Every time they tried to use their traditional strategies, human forces had been ready with counters that the aliens had never seen before. "Signal the fleet," she ordered. "Prepare for Operation Final Fortune. We end this today." President Donghyun Choi was monitoring the battle from Earth's command center. Around him, representatives from every human colony watched as their forces prepared to finish what the Vorthak had started. "Mr. President," called Admiral Miran Song from her position, "Fleet Admiral Quan reports that she's ready to begin the final engagement. The Vorthak fleet is trapped between our forces and the gravitational field of the gas giant. Any word from the Galactic Confederation?" Donghyun asked. Ambassador Ji-hee Moon appeared on the communication screen from the Confederation capital. "Mr. President, the Council is in emergency session. They're demanding to know how humans developed such advanced military capabilities without anyone knowing." "What did you tell them?" "The truth. That we spent 80 years learning from every species in the galaxy, while they assumed we were harmless farmers and merchants." Donghyun smiled at that. It had been humanity's greatest deception, appearing weak and peaceful while secretly preparing for war. Every human colony had been both a settlement and a fortress. Every human merchant had been both a trader and a spy. Every human diplomat had been both an ambassador and an intelligence gatherer. Any response from other species? The Kelrani Empire has requested human military advisors. Apparently, they're impressed by our performance against the Vorthak. The Zephyrian Republic wants to discuss new defense agreements. Even the Ethereal Collective, who usually ignore everyone else, have sent a message asking about our stealth technology. This was exactly what President Choi had hoped for. The war with the Vorthak wasn't just about defeating one enemy. It was about establishing humanity's place in the galactic community. No longer would other species see humans as weak newcomers who could be pushed around. Back in space, Fleet Admiral Yunji Quan was implementing the final phase of the human strategy. Her ships moved in perfect coordination, using gravity wells and quantum strikes to trap the remaining Vorthak vessels. "Admiral," reported her communications officer, "Fleet Commander Rathel is requesting a parley." "Put him through." The image of a battle-scarred Vorthak appeared on the main screen. Rathel had taken command after Veltar's capture, but he looked exhausted and defeated. "Human Admiral," he began, "I am Fleet Commander Rathel. I wish to discuss terms of surrender." "I'm listening, Commander." "Our intelligence was wrong about your species. We underestimated your capabilities and your resolve. We thought we were fighting primitive warriors, but instead we found ourselves facing the most advanced military force in the galaxy. Yunji kept her expression neutral. Continue. I have 800 ships left from our original fleet of 10,000. My supply lines are cut. My ground forces are scattered or captured. Supreme Commander Veltar is your prisoner. Rathel paused as if the next words were difficult to speak. The Vorthak Empire surrenders unconditionally. What guarantees can you offer that hostilities will not resume? The Vorthak Council of War has voted to dissolve our military. We accept whatever terms you choose to impose. Yunji looked at President Choi's image on her secondary screen. The president nodded slightly. Commander Rathel, she said, here are our terms. First, all Vorthak military vessels will be disarmed and escorted to designated stations for inspection. Second, the Vorthak Empire will provide full reparations for damages caused during this conflict. Third, Vorthak worlds will accept human observers to ensure compliance with peace terms. And our people, our colonies, will remain under Vorthak civilian control but with human military protection. Your species will become a protectorate of humanity. Rathel was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke again. Admiral, may I ask you a question? Go ahead. How did you do it? How did humans hide such capabilities for so long? Yunji considered her answer carefully. Commander, your people made the mistake of thinking that because we were peaceful, we were weak. You studied what we had done in the past, but you never tried to understand who we were becoming. I don't understand. Every species you had fought before followed predictable patterns. They used the same tactics their ancestors had used. They fought the same way they had always fought. But humans are different. She paused, making sure he understood the importance of what she was about to say. We learn. From every enemy, from every battle, from every mistake. We spent 80 years in the Confederation learning from every species' victories and defeats. We adapted and improved while you remained the same. 2 days later, President Donghyun Choi stood before the Galactic Confederation Council. Representatives from dozens of species filled the Great Chamber, all waiting to hear from the species that had just achieved the impossible. Honored delegates, he began. The war with the Vorthak Empire is over. Their fleet has surrendered and their military has been dissolved. A murmur ran through the chamber. Many of these species had lived in fear of Vorthak aggression for generations. The idea that they had been completely defeated seemed impossible. Some of you have asked how humanity achieved this victory. The answer is simple. We prepared. Dr. So-Young Park, now serving as humanity's chief scientific advisor to the Confederation, stepped forward with a holographic display. For 80 years, she explained, humans have been studying every aspect of galactic civilization. We learned your languages, your technologies, your military doctrines, and your weaknesses. Not to exploit you, but to protect ourselves. The display showed a timeline of human activities in the Confederation. What everyone had seen as peaceful integration was revealed to be comprehensive intelligence gathering and military preparation. Every human colony was designed to be self-sufficient and defensible. Every human merchant vessel could transform into a warship. Every human diplomat was also a military analyst. Ambassador Ji-Hai Moon took over the presentation. We hid our true capabilities because we knew that appearing weak would make potential enemies overconfident. The Vorthak attacked us because they thought we were helpless. They never considered that we might be pretending to be helpless. But why? Asked the delegate from the Kelrani Empire. Why go to such lengths to prepare for war while maintaining peace? President Choi answered that question. Because we learned from Earth's history. Our species fought countless wars before we reached the stars. We learned that the best way to prevent war is to be so prepared for it that enemies choose not to fight. And if they choose to fight anyway, then they discover what the Vorthak discovered. That thinking of war with humans requires more than just superior numbers or advanced technology. It requires wisdom, and wisdom means understanding your enemy before you attack them. The ethereal collective representative, a being of pure energy, spoke for the first time in decades. Humans of Earth, your species has demonstrated capabilities that surpass our expectations. We wish to learn from your methods. Our methods are simple, Dr. So-Young Park replied. Study everything. Learn from everyone. Prepare for every possibility. And never stop adapting. Supreme Commander Veltar, still a prisoner but now serving as an advisor on Vorthak affairs, was brought before the council to speak about his experience. The humans defeated us completely, he admitted. Not just militarily, but psychologically. They made us defeat ourselves by making us overconfident. How could your intelligence have been so wrong? Asked a delegate. Because we saw what they wanted us to see. Every scan of human colonies showed peaceful farming communities. Every analysis of human ships showed primitive cargo vessels. Every study of human tactics showed outdated military doctrine. Veltar looked directly at President Choi. What we didn't see was that they were showing us exactly what they wanted us to see. They made themselves appear weak to make us careless. President Choi nodded. Commander Veltar, your people were brave fighters, but bravery without wisdom leads to defeat. What will happen to the Vorthak Empire now? Your people will have the chance to learn what we learned. That true strength comes not from the ability to destroy others, but from the wisdom to avoid unnecessary conflicts. As the council session ended, representatives from dozens of species approached the human delegation with requests for military advisors, technology exchanges, and defense agreements. Ambassador Ji Hai Moon found herself surrounded by aliens who had previously ignored humanity or treated them as unimportant newcomers. It's amazing how defeating the Vorthak has changed. Everyone's attitude toward us, she observed too. Dr. So Young Park, that's the real lesson of this war, So Young replied.